just as an addition to the source of Moroccan Etrogim, and how do we know really that the Moroccan Etrogim are not grafted? So there is a kuntras that came out in the year Tafshin Samech Bet 2002 from Rabbi Yasher Levi from London, I believe. I think he's from London or Manchester, London, and his family is in the Etrogim business, and he researched this in depth. And I just want to mention a few important details in regards to these Moroccan Etrogim. Number one is that these Etrogim are found in the south, in the south region of Dumdir, next to Tarudant, right? Next to Tarudant, and it's in a place where it doesn't have access so much to civilization, we'll call it, and they definitely do not graft. Now, if you're going to speak to an agriculturist, he's going to tell you that in order to graft Etrogim onto lemon trees, you have to cut down the existing tree and plant the lemon branch, and that is basically how you're going to graft together. So that's the only way to graft. In other words, you're gonna cut down the existing tree and graft an etrog branch with it together. Now, if you would do this right away, you're able to see that grafting could have been done. And if you do this grafting, you can expect fruit for 3 years. So that's number one. If the main income of these groves is to do that, then they're going to be losing parnasa for 3 years. Now, besides the fact that there's research of that there's professionals that came and saw that there's no way that it was grafted anytime it could. Now, there's no proof that it wasn't grafted a very long time ago. That's what's difficult in this parasha, but there's no reason. This is where the discussion comes up. There's no reason to believe that anybody would have wanted to graft. There's nothing to gain by it. They would be losing 3 years of parnas, and even more importantly, the etrogim grow very healthily without that. So what would be their incentive to do that? Let me give you a point. In 1995, Rav Elyashiv. Until 1995, Rabbi Elyashiv was never really clear on Moroccan Etrogim. For all he knew, he didn't know there was a Masoret or not, and he didn't tell people to make a bracha over it. And people came to him and they told him the validity. So he asked Rav Yosef Efrati, a close Talmud of his, to go together with Professor Eliezer Goldschmidt to go specially to Morocco to investigate this matter. And when they investigate this matter, they saw that the trees remained very strong for many years. And furthermore, there's a certain, it's amazing, by trees, they get viruses just like human beings. There's no vaccine for it. What it is that there's a microbe called the molesco that could go into trees and weaken the tree. And grafting is when it's going to help. There is no problem of this molesco microbe in Morocco. And because of that, Professor Goldschmidt, he made a whole study, and he determined, after checking out the trees, checking out what type of incentive there would be to make grafting, he concluded that there was no problem whatsoever. It wasn't grafted. When he went back to Rabbi Elyashiv became such a chassid of these Moroccan Etrogim. That's what he started making a bracha on, And that's so. Besides the fact that there's been a long-established tradition from the Chachamim, from the Orach Chaim HaKadosh, and from the Ya'avetz, and from the Rabbi Yehuda ben Atar, and from the great Geonim, they always had that chazaka. Besides the fact, if you go to that place and you see how they grow healthy, and there's no molesco virus, and you would be able to tell if each and every one of them would have had a she'ela in order to graft. So, putting all that together, it's a very, very far out chashash to say that there's a problem in this grafting. Now, there was a question that we asked: how come it doesn't have seeds? And Lechora, one of the simanim, Mishnah says that it should have seeds. So this is very interesting. That in the citrus family, you can have some citrus fruits that will have seeds and some that won't. Depends how long they grow, and it depends if they get their pollination from other places. So, for example, the etrog trees grow very high together, and there's no real other citrus fruits that are in the area. So because there's no other citrus fruits in that area, so there's no pollen that might fertilize the etrog flowers. So that's why, according to Professor Goldschmidt in his study, that's why the etrog tree is capable of producing seedless fruits. But it's not that it's a min that doesn't have seeds. Some of them will and some of them won't. He says, like, for example, tangerines, they produce seeds when they're close to other citrus trees. Okay, and that's why in this strain of the Moroccan Etrogim, it's not close to other pollination of citrus trees. That's why, that's a point that I thought to raise. That's why it doesn't have its seeds. Okay, either way, these are a few hosafot that I wanted to add on, and we'll keep this for next year, and we'll post this for next year so that people, as a hashlamah to the Moroccan Etrogim.